First, we're going to measure the outside diameter of the stepper motor. Using the calipers, we find that our diameter ends up being 1.1 inches. Next, you'll notice that it's not a perfect circle and in fact has a rectangular part on the bottom. We're going to measure the rectangular part on the bottom and find that to have a height of 0.15 inches. We're going to measure the width of that rectangular section and find that it is about 0.575 inches. Finally, the depth of this rectangular section has a depth of 0.75 inches. As for the drive of the stepper motor, we measure it and we find it to be 0.32 inches long, about 0.2 inches in diameter. We measure the thickness of the rectangular section of the drive and find it to be 1.15 inches. We measure the notches on the drive and find them to be about 1/4 inch. The top of our drive and the top of our stepper motor have a distance of about 0.135 inches. Now we measure the flanges. We find them to have a height of 0.275 inches, and from the edge of the flange to the end of the body, we find it to also be 0.275 inches. We measure the diameter of the inside hole to find 0.15 inches, and from the edge of the flange to the edge of the inside hole, we find it to be 0.05 inches. The total thickness of the flange ends up being 0.03 inches. This is on shape. This is what we'll be using today, and I'm going to come up here to the top left and press create. I'm going to be creating a new document, and let's give it a meaningful name. So I'm going to call this one the stepper motor. Okay, so we're going to start off with a sketch. Let's do it on the front plane. Now, I want to get a better view of my front plane, so I'm going to press the front face here to align itself with it. So let's start off with a circle. I'm going to place it in the center to make it easier to arrange everything later. And I'm going to make that diameter what I measured earlier, which is 1.1 inches. So that's our general shape, but we have to remember we have that rectangular section on the bottom as well. So I'm going to come over to this rectangle, and I'm going to place it about what it looks like in real life. So let's come up to this dimension tool, the top center, and I know that the difference between the diameter of the circle and the bottom of my little section there is 0.15 inches, and I know that the overall length of this bottom section here is 0.575 inches. Now, from the edge to the center would be half that distance. That way it's oriented in the center of the circle, which is 0.2875. And so now I have the general shape, but I have these extra lines here which would keep me from extruding it properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the snipping tool up here, the pair of scissors, and I'm going to snip away that section there, these sections here. Finally, that part of the circle. Now I should have my general shape. I'm going to press done on this sketch button here, and it takes me back to the main screen. We're going to press the extrude button up here on the top left, and we're going to press the face we want to extrude. In this case, the face we just got done drawing, and now let's give it a depth. We measured it was 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to place 0.75 there, and I'm going to press this green arrow up here. Now I can either click on the right part of my mouse to rotate it freely, or if I want to get a very concise view, I'll press this top corner here and it zooms out. Alright, so now let's go ahead and make that drive shaft. The simplest way would be to simply add it to the extruded value we already have. In this case, I'm just going to make another sketch on the face of the extrusion. Now I'm going to zoom in a bit here, and I'm going to draw a circle roughly about where it is, and I know that its diameter is going to be 0.2 inches. Now, the top of this circle and the top of that circle was measured. So I'm going to go to this dimension tool here, and I'm going to tell it that I want the top of this circle and the top of the previous circle to be 0.135 inches. And now I am finished with my sketch. I'm going to go back to the front view. I'm going to come down here to the extrude tool. Once again, I'm going to make a new part. I'm going to click that circle face I just got done drawing. And now I'm going to tell it how far I want it to be extruded. In this case, we know that it is 0.3 inches long. And I'm going to press the green check mark saying yes, that is what I want. And now I'm going to go back to my view here, and as you can see, I have that drive shaft circle coming out now. So we know that the drive shaft has a circle outside part, but if you recall the stepper motor, it actually has notches cut out of each side. So we're going to have to add those notches. I'm going to go ahead and remove that material because that's similar to what an actual manufacturing process would do. So once again, I'm going to make a sketch on top of the circle I have here, but this time I'm going to be removing material. So I'm going to draw two rectangles about the general vicinity of where I want them to be, as long as they encompass the parts I want. I'm going to do a dimension tool here. That part is clearly not long enough, so I'll just make it long enough, right? And I'm going to dimension these to be half the thickness of my rectangular section. So 0.0575, and I want this one to be the same. 0.0575. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, that's a very ugly drawing, which it is. But for this case, since I'm simply removing material and there's nothing else it could be hitting, this is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and press this green check mark here, and I'm going to press this extrude command. So I'm going to come down here to this remove tab, and I'm going to select those faces I want. In this case, it's just those portions. I'm going to go ahead and select the rest of the rectangle just to show you that it's not going to affect my drawing. Now I need to know about how deep that is. So from what I measured, it's about 1/4 inch deep. 0.25. I'm going to press enter. Now let's look at that profile. Now let's go ahead and add those flanges. So once again, I'm going to be drawing on the face of that body I extruded. I'm going to use the front view here to get a better look, and I'm going to be doing a sketch. For this case, I'm going to just go ahead and do the general shape again, and I'm going to go ahead and dimension this rectangle. It's going to be 0.275. Extruded out from the edge of my circle, it's also 0.275 inches. And dimension it from the distance there to be, as we know, 0.1375, which is half the height of it. Now, these flanges have a hole in them. And I'm going to dimension this to be 0.15 inches diameter. And I also know that from the edge of my circle to the edge of my part here, that is going to be 0.055 inches. The fillet tool is up here located next to the snipping tool. And what you do is you select the two sides that you'd like to fillet, round off, and you give it a radius. In this case, my radius is 0.1375, which is half the height, 0.1375. Okay, and now I have a flange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the mirror command. It's going to ask me, what's my mirror plane? What am I reflecting across? In this case, it's the vertical axis of my part, since it's symmetric. In this case, I just want to mirror everything. So I'll go ahead and select everything, and boom, there it is. On the other side, saves me a lot of work, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this sketch. I need to extrude this material. I need to be a little careful with this extrude though, because it's not like the others. I'm going to select these faces here, and if I look through my corner view, it's trying to extrude them out towards me. I want to reverse that direction, and I know that the thickness of these flanges is 0.055 inches. And now I'm going to complete my flange. I'm going to zoom in just to get a better view. And now we have our flanged bits in the front of our stepper motor.